Hi, I'm Eric Siegel with ericstrains.com. Today we're going to be checking out a great model of a great engine. This is the new Lionel 3-rail O-scale Norfolk & Western 2882 Y6b. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a little bit of history on the Y6b, and then we'll get into Lionel's rendition. As everyone probably knows, the N&W was a big coal railroad and made most of its revenue hauling coal out of West Virginia. Now, of course, in order to haul those big coal trains, you really need a powerful engine. And so the Y6Bs and really the Y-series engines in general were born out of that need of the N&W to be able to haul those huge coal trains through the mountains. And so for that reason, the Y6Bs were some of the most powerful steam locomotives ever built. The Y6B was a compound mallet-type locomotive, or mallet if you want to pronounce it correctly. It was a 2882. That means there were 2 wheels up front, 8 drive wheels here, another 8 drive wheels back here, and then 2 wheels on the trailing truck. Production of the Y6Bs began in 1948 and lasted until 1952. Number 2171 that you see here was the first Y6B to be made, and then the last one was number 2200. And interestingly, number 2200 was the last mainline steam locomotive built in the United States. The Y6Bs operated through the 1950s and even into the early 1960s, and the last one was finally retired from service in 1961. All of the Y6Bs were eventually scrapped. However, N&W number 2156, which is a somewhat similar Y6A, still exists today and is one of only 2 of the 2882 mallet-type locomotives that has survived. And interestingly, the other surviving 2882 is also a Y-type locomotive from the N&W, and that's the Y3A number 2050. Now, the Y6Bs were famous for their power, but they also hold a special place in history because of the N&W's stance on dieselization. The N&W was a big coal railroad, as I already said, and since their steam locomotives ran on that coal, the N&W was the last major American railroad to give up steam power and make the move to diesel. They really held out until the very end, and for many years they fought to keep steam alive because the N&W believed that steam could match the efficiency and power of diesel, and they even conducted several tests to try to prove it. But of course, as we all know, diesel eventually won out, and even the N&W finally made the switch. In the end, it wasn't that diesel was more powerful than steam. It wasn't. In terms of raw pulling power, steam was king. What really did it was the cost of operations. Diesels were much cheaper to maintain, and they could also be MU'd, which made them much more versatile than steam. And so, as hard as the N&W fought to keep steam going, they eventually had no choice but to switch to diesel power. But the N&W's long-standing allegiance to steam power earned the Y6B a place in history because the Y6Bs were the very last compound mallet-type locomotives to operate in revenue service on major American railroads. Okay, now let's talk about Lionel's Y6B. This latest rendition of the Y6B was made available in Lionel's 2014 Volume 2 catalog, and then these things started showing up in stores in June of 2015. Now, there are 3 road numbers available for sale. There's the 2171 that you see here. There's also a 2175 and a 2195. Now, all 3 road numbers are exactly the same in terms of features and details, so anything you see in this review video on the 2171 also applies to the other 2 road numbers. Let's go over some quick stats and facts on this engine, and then after that we'll go in for some close-up shots. The length of the engine itself is right at 17 inches. The length of the tender is 11.5 inches. When put together, they have a combined length of 28 3/4 inches. The weight of the engine is 9 pounds 5 ounces. The weight of the tender is 4 pounds 5 ounces. So that's a combined weight of 13 pounds 10 ounces. This engine has 2 pounds 11 ounces of pulling power, which is pretty good. And the minimum curve needed to operate this engine is 0.72. On the inside, the engine is powered by one large flywheel motor. There are two smoke units in the engine. One is for the smokestack and the other one is for the whistle steam smoke effect, both of which you'll see later. And then back in the tender are the electronics for legacy control and legacy rail sounds. Of course, there are three ways to operate this engine. The preferred method is to use Lionel's legacy command system, as that will give you access to all of the engine's advanced features. You can also run the engine with Lionel's classic TMCC system, or you can run the engine conventionally with just a transformer and some track. The Lionel Y6b is loaded with great details and features, so now let's go in for a closer look. Okay, here's a look at the front of the Y6b, and as you can see, it looks fantastic. On the pilot area up here, we've got a very detailed cow catcher down here, and then some nice step detail on either side of the coupler. There's an air hose right here. We've got a coupler cut bar with a chain that goes down into a dummy scale coupler. And of course, if you want to double head the engine, you can swap out that dummy scale coupler for a dummy O-gauge coupler that's also packaged with the engine. Moving up, we've got safety tread on these steps and also up on the walkways, and there's great rivet detail on the sides. And then we've got all of this great separately applied metal handrail and guardrail work. In here, we've got some really nice detailing, and then up here we've got an operational headlight and lighted number boards on either side. Check out these cylinders. They are wonderfully detailed, and then in the middle here is the Y6b nameplate. Here's a look at the first set of drivers, and all of this drive gear looks great. You know, one of my favorite things about running steam engines is watching all of this stuff in action, and you'll see that later in this video. And then right here we've got all of this great add-on detailing. It looks fantastic. And here's the second set of drivers. Again, we've got all this wonderful drive gear going on and lots of separately applied piping and valves and so forth. That second set of drivers butts up right against the firebox and the trailing truck. So here's a look at the firebox. It's very well done, and this engine does have the variable ash pan glow effect. So there's a red glow down here in the ash pan, and that red glow gets more intense as the engine picks up speed. And then right here we've got the trailing truck. It's very nicely done, and again you can see all of this great add-on detailing down here under the cab. As we round the corner and start down the side of the boiler, you can see the start of one of the two handrails that run down the entire length of the boiler. And right here, the handrail intersects with that curved grab iron that you saw on the front of the boiler. The walkways on the engine are excellent, and they've got these really cool drainage holes in them. Right here, you can see the end of the throttle linkage. And then right here, we've got a legible builder's plate, and on that it reads Norfolk and Western Railway, Roanoke Shop, Y6b, built April 1948, number 363. Moving on down, we've got the continuation of the handrail and the throttle linkage. That goes all the way back to the cab, by the way. And then we've got this add-on pipe here, and you'll see more of that when we take a look at the top of the engine. As we get back toward the cab, you can see some nice cast-in details, some steps here and there, some nice detailing here, and again, there's that nice throttle linkage. Here's a look at the exterior of the cab. There's a separately applied grab iron right here, and then there's one on the other side, of course. There's also one right here and right here. There's a grab iron here, but oddly enough, it is not separately applied. It's cast in. There's a little window in the front with a clear plastic insert in it, and of course there's one on the other side. And then we've got these side windows, and they open up like that. I know you can't see it very well, but on the inside of the cab there are two hand-painted crew figures. Here's one of them. There's a very detailed backhead with a red glow in the firebox, and the interior of the cab is illuminated, and that light does turn off when the engine starts moving. Here's a quick look at the other side of the engine, and as you can see, it looks great. Now let's check out the top of the boiler. We've got some nice detailing here, and there's an add-on part that goes all the way down the side. And then we've got the smokestack, and there is a fan-driven smoke unit down in there. And of course, to load smoke fluid into the smoke unit, you simply pour the smoke fluid directly down the stack. Then we've got some nice cast-in detailing back here, a nice sand dome, and then some more add-on detailing here. Moving back, we've got several hand-painted parts, the pop-off valves, the whistle, and this little knob. We've got some great detailing back here, and this gets more intense as we move back toward the cab. There's a wire lanyard attached to the whistle, and that goes all the way back to the cab. And this engine is equipped with the whistle steam smoke effect. So there's a little hole under the whistle here, and when you blow the whistle, it shoots smoke out of that hole and gives the illusion of steam shooting out of the whistle. It looks great, and you'll see it in just a few minutes. Now, the whistle steam smoke unit and the smoke unit for the smokestack share the same smoke fluid reservoir. So when you pour smoke fluid down the main stack, you're supplying fluid for the smokestack and the whistle steam smoke effect. As we approach the cab, we've got all of this wonderful add-on detailing here, including the little brass bell. And then on top of the cab, there are two roof vents which open up like that. Here's a look at the back of the engine. Starting at the bottom, we've got the drawbar, and then sitting up on top of the drawbar is the infrared sensor that allows the electronics in the engine to communicate with the electronics in the tender. Up above that, we've got the drop plate that allows the crew to move between the engine and the tender to shovel coal. And then we've got the back side of the cab. There are clear inserts in the windows. There are two separately applied grab irons. There's this really cool green underside, and that's on the inside of the cab as well. And from this angle, you can see the inside of the cab a little better than before. It's a very detailed interior. They did a great job. Here's a quick look at the gap between the engine and the tender, and as you can see, it looks great. Here's a look at the underside of the engine. There are 4 pickup rollers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there are 2 traction tires on the last axle on each set of drivers, so we've got a total of 4 traction tires. And then under the cab, there are 4 control switches. Right here is the main smoke unit on-off switch, and then we've got the whistle smoke unit on-off switch, and then on the other side is the run program switch and the Odyssey speed control switch. Alright, that takes care of the engine, so now let's take a look at the tender. Starting on the side, at the bottom, we've got some very nicely detailed die-cast metal truck side frames. And then up here, we've got some great rivet detail going on, and of course that nice crisp Norfolk and Western logo. The front of the tender looks great. Right here, we've got the receiving end for the drawbar, and there we have the second infrared sensor that allows the electronics in the tender to communicate with the electronics in the engine. We've got some nice steps on the corners down here, some separately applied grab irons on the corners up here, some nice legible copy on these doors here, and then some great cast-in details all around. Here's a look at the back of the tender, which also looks great. We've got lots of separately applied grab irons and a metal ladder. We've got lots of legible copy. There's an operating backup light right here. And then of course down here we've got the electrocoupler that can be thrown from the Legacy or TMCC remote. Here's a look at the top of the tender. In the back here we've got a real coal load. And then we've got the doghouse that the Norfolk and Western like to have on a lot of their tenders. And for those of you who don't know, a doghouse was a little shelter for the brakeman who had to ride on the train, and it would help to protect him from the elements. And so what's cool is on the inside of this doghouse there's a light and there's a little brakeman figurine. Toward the back there's a water hatch, and if we lift it up, that reveals the master volume control for the engine. Finally, here's a look at the underside of the tender. There are 2 pickup rollers, 1 per truck. And then we've got quite a bit of add-on detailing down here, much more than most other tenders I've seen. There's a piece here, here, and here, and then we've got some add-on water pipes here, here, and on the end over here. There are 2 speakers for the sound system under this truck right here, and then right here is the infrared sensor for the Lionel LCS sensor track. Alright, the last thing we're going to do before we start this thing up is BFIMO, best feature in my opinion. Well, best feature this time around is sort of a no-brainer. It's the whistle. Lionel did a fantastic job on the whistle sound, and from what I've heard, they got it right on the money. It is so much fun to quill this whistle. When I first took the engine out of the box, all I did for the first 30 minutes was blow the whistle. It's that much fun, and you'll hear it in just a minute. Alright, now comes the fun part. Let's go ahead and start her up.
This is the dispatcher. Do you copy?
Okay, first up, let's check out the whistle. And like I said, the whistle on this engine is absolutely fantastic. In fact, it's so fantastic that I don't even think I've fully mastered it yet, but I'm going to give it my best shot, so let's check it out. All right, now let's check out the bell. Here's the steam blowdown sound. And here's the sound of water being added to the tender.
My water's full. Roger that. Out.
And lastly, let's check out some of the crew talk dialogue. And as always, if you don't like it, you don't have to use it.
Dispatcher here. Hold your position. Over. I copy, dispatcher. Out. This is the dispatcher. You're cleared outbound. Over. Very good. I got the grain. Out. Dispatcher, arrived and ready for new orders. Over. Acknowledged. You're on your mark. Out. Is it clear through the junction, dispatcher? Over. Affirmative. You have a clear track. Over. Copy. That'll keep us on schedule. Out. This is the dispatcher. All clear inbound. Over. Acknowledge. Clear block. Out. This is the dispatcher. Come to a full stop. Over. Roger that. Full stop. Out.
Okay, it's time to move it out. Now, I could think of nothing more appropriate to pull behind the Y6b than a big coal drag. So I've got a whole bunch of coal hoppers lined up behind this thing, and they're ready to go. Now, some of these hoppers that you're going to see are a little bit too modern to be pulled behind a Y6b, prototypically speaking, but that's because I do not have enough steam era coal hoppers in my collection to make up a long coal train. So I apologize for that. If you've got a big problem with it, you're either going to have to get over it or just stop watching the video, but I promise it'll be okay. Anyway, let's move it out. Oh, one more thing. All of the coal hoppers that you're going to see in this train are made by Weaver Models. As I'm sure many of you know already, Weaver Models is closing its doors, and I, for one, am very upset about it. I've been a big fan of Weaver Models over the years. I have a lot of their stuff in my collection. I have a lot of their coal hoppers in particular, and so I'm very sad to see them close. I'm really going to miss them, and so I'd like to dedicate the coal drag in this video to Weaver Models.
Dispatcher, train is moving. Over. Keep them rolling.
Okay, that about wraps it up for this review. This is a gorgeous model that I am thrilled to add to my collection. If you're interested in purchasing one of these, they are not cheap. The retail price on the Y6b, regardless of which road number you order, is $1999.99, so just about $2,000. Now, if you go through a good Lionel dealer, you will probably get a little bit of a discount off that retail price. I think I got mine for somewhere around $1,600. And as always, if you're looking for a good Lionel dealer, try my favorite train store, which is Legacy Station. You can find them on the web at www.legacystation.com or give them a call at 770-339-7780. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time. To discuss this model or any other O-Gauge trains and to meet other O-Gauge modelers, check out the O-Gauge Railroading Magazine online forum at ogrforum.ogaugerr.com.